Hello, I am your everyday average Jonathan. Join me this week as I turn this and this into a rustic wooden buddy bench for my children's school. Gorillas in the mist, horses in the mist, dogs in the mist, chickens in the mist, sticky kids in the mist. Ugh. Or you could say it's just another April in Colorado. Hello, I am your everyday average Jonathan. I'm an ordinary guy with ordinary tools making extraordinary items. This week you could say that I am tickled pink. I can't say that I received a commission for this. I was volunteered or maybe even voluntold. I serve on the PTO for my elementary school here in the mountains of Colorado, and the request went out for what's called a buddy bench. What I was told the buddy bench is, it's going to be a little bench for children to sit on during recess when they don't feel like playing with anybody, and it's their way of signaling that they want to be left alone or play by themselves. There is a chance that I got that wrong, but either way, I just love the idea. So I'm going to make a wooden bench of my own design. As in everything I do, it's going to be fairly large in format, so those kids are never going to get the chance to move that bench. It's going to stay put once we set it down, I'm sure. Well, without further ado, I'm excited. Let's get to the shop and get started. Among the many things that I collect timber, I collect lumber. In fact, some of these pieces of lumber I have transported across state lines going back maybe more than 10 years. This, in fact, is a piece of old redwood timber. It's a 4x6 piece of timber, redwood. It is dimensional, rough hewn. I love it. Thrilled to be able to use it, put it to a good use. And what I'm going to do here is, because redwood is so beautiful, I'm going to take off that rime that it develops over time, and going to touch up each of the edges, each of the dimensions, so that it looks like brand new redwood. Redwood has this amazing ability to stay beautiful underneath a small buildup of scale, or what I call rime. I'm going to use the redwood for 3 of the 4 legs for this particular bench. I wish that I could use it for more, but I end up running out of the timber. But as you see here, these are the back pieces of the bench. They're what's going to hold the bench body itself, but at the back section where you're going to sit against it. This is a Japanese saw that you just saw me use there. It is a flat saw. It is stupid sharp. Absolutely one of the sharpest saws I've ever used. Absolute pleasure to use it. It's new to me, but I was happy to get to put it to use. And during the intro, I had said that the bench was to be used for a child, a kiddo, a buddy bench where they did not want to have somebody to play with, which is ludicrous to me, because what's the point of the term a buddy bench? What this actually is it's going to be made for kids that are feeling a little bit left out or left behind. They can sit on this buddy bench, and then other kids can look over and say, hey, we should go engage with these kids. They're feeling left out. And we'd like to go play with them. So I was completely wrong. I had it in reverse. This piece of timber you see here, that's actually an oak piece of wood. I'm actually debating if it's oak. It's really heavy. It's extremely hard. It doesn't look like oak because it's got that semi-yellow look to it, but it might be poplar. I'm not certain what it is, but very, very heavy piece of wood. It'll be the 4th of 4 legs. As with so much that I do a lot of eyeballing. I cut things, I measure as many times as I think is correct. I still get it wrong all of the time, but I do just sort of do things by eyeball. The bench back and bench itself are going to be made out of Home Depot, God bless Home Depot, Douglas Fir 2x12, and I'm going to mate that with a 2x6. What I'm doing now is I'm just going to freehand out the various designs. One of them is going to be a wolf head. The other is going to be a stallion or a stud. The mascot of my elementary school is the Stallions, so I wanted to make sure I had that in there as well. I'm also going to be gluing up 2 pieces here that you can see that are going to be a single armrest, and they're going to have an eagle motif to them, or a hawk motif. So they're going to be just one armrest. It's going to look almost like one of those, what are they called? Chase lounges, where you have one armrest on one side that you can sort of recline against. But I just like that style. I just thought it was an interesting aesthetic to it. Each of the legs is going to slightly recess into the bench body itself. And that's what you see me doing here. You see me cutting into the bench body. I'm going to chisel this out. I'm not very good with chisel work, as you'll see here. It took me a lot of doing, but I ended up using my angle grinder with a sanding wheel, and that actually would in turn bring the surfaces to a very smooth, very uniform surface. This really illuminated to me that I am in dire need of getting a little bit of mentorship when it comes to creating furniture and woodwork. So much of what I do is reactive. So much of what I do is haphazard. What you see here is I have these cutoffs from other builds that I've done. They're mated pairs, so I knew I could use those. I could use them. They're called, I believe, they're either braces or something called corbels, which you'll often see in very fancy Victorian house roofs. You'll see these corbels that sort of sit underneath the eaves. I call them corbels. That might not be their actual name. But what they also are really good for is they're really good for cinching up and squaring up different pieces of timber. Each one of these has a 90-degree angle, and so here I am fighting with it tremendously. I have the absolute wrong way to do this, and I would correct, but each of them does cinch up the legs at a 90 degree, and if there's 2 axes here, so I use them on both axes for the bench part as well as for the back of the bench. If that made no sense, it didn't make much sense to me either. What I will be doing is on each of the legs, I'm going to put in a really long lag screw. It's essentially a lag screw, and that's just going to suck the leg into the bench and vice versa. And then I'll go take those corbels that I mentioned, those braces, and I will square them up once I've got them mated together. And it worked really well. It does set up and sit the way that I wanted it to. And this is the back of the bench with the horse head and the wolf head on it. I did need to make a couple adjustments because my measuring and the way that I laid this out left a lot to be desired. But everything that I built here, everything, I made sure that I put a 45-degree bevel on it because I do know that kids are prone to playing hard and they're going to get some slivers probably one way or another. So I sanded this copiously. I put a 45-degree bevel on every edge that I could think of. Now what I'm doing is I am going to char this. I'm going to char this actually a lot because the Colorado weather at this school and where I live is really taxing on any sort of wooden structure, any sort of wooden furniture. So I'm going to char it really deeply, and then I'm going to apply a stain or a coating, probably something like a deck coating to really weatherproof this. First deck coating I got out, I don't know where I got this from. It might have been something I inherited with the shop in the house when I bought it. But open up this really great outdoor deck stain, and it was basically putty. I think it had just sat too long. Then something called Penafin was just crystals. I don't know what the heck that was. And then this last, I guess Valspar deck stain clear coating. That should do the trick. I just poured it on. I coated it really thickly multiple times. Poured it on. Let it sit overnight, and we'll see what it looks like in the morning. So off I go to my elementary school, and my friend Zach, who's also a parent of one of the kids at the school, helps me carry this back to where it's going to live. It's going to live on the playground, and the school goes up through 5th grade, and we're just going to set it there. And the idea is that children who feel left out, they come and they sit just like these 2 cuties do. And if someone's sitting there and someone else wants to come on over and give them some company and make them feel at home, that's the whole point of the bench. So I'm proud of it. I'm proud of its new home. And there you have it. I would be thrilled if the bench was here for a solid 10 years. I'll be keeping an eye on it for at least another 3 or 4 and making repairs as needed. Well, thank you for joining me. That was a really enjoyable build. It was illuminating, it was interesting, it was somewhat frustrating. Let's get right into it. The 3 things that I learned from this build are as follows. The first is that I got the definition of a buddy bench completely wrong. I thought that it was a bench where a child would sit on it when they might want to be left alone, and that doesn't make any sense the more I think about it. A buddy bench, why would you want to be left alone? But what it really is it's a bench where a child who's feeling left out and might want to be more included, they'll sit down on the bench, and that will signal to the other students around them, the other children around them, that they may want to have someone come and include them. Either way, I'm very excited. I'm very honored to make this for my children's school. The second learning is this. Normally, I will say in my builds that I tend to be an impatient person, and that is the case. But in this particular instance with this build, I tried really hard to be exact with my measurements. I tried really hard to be not just precise, but get the layout and the structure and the interface between multiple pieces of wood correct. And there are some areas on this bench that I completely failed at, and to me, they stand out. What that shows me and what that really illuminates for me is that I need to go and find a place that I can get mentored, that I can learn furniture making, that I can learn timber work from experts that just understand, do this, not that. It isn't a limitation based on my impatience at all in this particular example. It's just a limitation on not knowing how to do wood layout and design better. The third learning that I have is an easier one for me, but it's an interesting one, and that is that there are several places on this bench where I pre-drilled holes and then went behind those pre-drilled holes and actually widened out the first maybe inch or so of that pre-drilled hole so that I could sink a big lag screw or just a screw into it. What I don't know, and I need to find this, is how to fill in those holes with something that is extremely weather resistant. I've done wood glue, I've done putty, I've done all sorts of things on furniture that is in a controlled environment, i.e. inside of a building, but I really haven't done hardly any of that on furniture that's going to be outside for its entire lifespan, if you will. The Colorado weather where I live is very extreme. Large temperature swings throughout a given day or a given week or several months. Very deep cold followed by extremely dry and very hot heat even at the elevation that I'm at. It does get pretty hot up here. And then there are times out of the blue, a lot of moisture will come in on a storm front, and this bench is going to be exposed to all of that. I don't know of an application to fill in holes and apply glue or wood putty that's going to survive that expansion and contraction that is weather related. I'll be curious to see if anybody has any ideas that can survive that sort of outdoor beating that it's going to take. But that's it for me this week. Thank you for joining me. Next week, I'm going to begin a commission that I received to make not 1, but 2 letter openers. And I'm using air quotes because I don't think I can make something that's a true letter opener, i.e. maybe dainty or dull, but that's what they're going to be. They're going to be corporate gifts that my friend commissioned me to make for his company. There will be 2 of them, and really what it's going to be is they're going to be daggers that are going to be in my style that will be passed off as letter openers. I think they're going to be a real hit in any corporate environment. I assume that they're going to be a real hit. I won't make them stupid sharp. If you like projects and builds like this, please check out my channel for more fantastical weapons and armor, rustic furniture, whimsical novelties. I would love to share that with you. Until then, and until next week, God bless, and thank you for joining me.